If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell to be notified of future videos. Thank you.
Hello Internet, I must tell you I'm excited. We've got another member of 3-2 Battalion here. People ask me why 3-2 Battalion. Let me tell you, in the first place, they were damn good. They were really unique. But most importantly, they come to the show. So I have to say to you, all of you out there, it's for you to come to me. I don't know you. I would love to know you. So if you were in one side, or you were in a parabats, or you were in armor, or in Panzerokkies, just come to the show. Just come and introduce yourself. Write me an email, and we will gladly work with you. So, Peter Lipman, I believe that's your name. Can you tell us, Peter, where do you come from? Is it really? I've heard only good things about you. But can you tell me, where do you come from? How did you end up in the South African Army?
Yes, thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me on your show. Just to give a short background, first I grew up in Zanin originally. And then from Zanin, we moved into Centurion. And I came to Littleton Manor High School. And obviously, in your final year, you get your call-up papers to the Army. And I received my call-up papers, and it was for the July intake at the medics, South African Medical Services. And I had to report to Voortrekker Hoogte, and it was sometime in July. So anyway, when the time came, we all arrived, and we were met at the station. We had to report to the station, and then from the station, they took us by Bedford and Samuels to the medic unit. And that's where we were dealt in. We went through all the usual rigmarole of, doing all your medical checkups and to see whether you are A1 or a K1 or a K3 or whatever the case may be. And then you get dealt into the certain sections and that sort of stuff, or personnel, or whatever the case may be. In any event, I didn't want to be, as we called him in those days, Tampax Stiffy. They were referred to as a Tampax Stiffy. And there was no ways that I wanted to be a Tampax Stiffy. So anyway, parabats, they come around every year prior to the intakes. And then they do recruiting for their unit, and one has to do certain exercises and 2,4, etc., a certain time period. And then if you complete all that sort of stuff, then you get shipped down to one parachute battalion. So I volunteered for that and passed that, and then obviously was transferred, was sent down by rail to Bloemfontein, and I did my basic training at one parachute battalion. And as you know, Bloemfontein can get very cold in winter, extremely cold. But be that as it may, and it was the biggest intake of parabats that there ever was. Okay, and I'd like to tell you a funny story. So if you were dealt into the bungalows by alphabetic. So if you started with your name was a V or towards the end of the alphabet, you slept in the tents. And otherwise, you slept in long bungalows. That long bungalows must have taken about 25 people, I would imagine. I'm just guessing now. And that was all done alphabetically. So anyway, one day we were sitting at the copy behind the hangars of the unit, and we're busy with feed and bewegen and camouflage. And so we're all standing there and doing our thing and everything. And all of a sudden we heard Saki Marais. Saki Marais was staff sergeant in those days, and he's a legend. And we heard his voice booming, shouting for us all to clear on. So in many events, we all formed a circle, and you can imagine now there's like 300, I would imagine 300, 400 people around there now, forming the semicircle. And we all had our Staldark webbing geweer and all that sort of stuff. And he says to us, and he shows us now, there's a tent there, and next to this tent is a drawer. Somebody didn't go to the toilet, and they just did their business right outside this tent, outside the tree, right next to this tent. But when I say it was a drawer, it was a manier. So anyway, he says to everybody, he says, "Wie het hier gekak?" Of course, nobody put up their hand or anything like that. It was just dead quiet, silence. Then he carries on and performs. He says, "Okay, who stays in this tent?" So then you see a hand going up there and one other hand going up there. So they slowly come out. And he says, "Right, tree on." So the guys tree on. And he says, "Mark a line." So the guys make a line. He says to the first guy, he says, "Nou tel op my fucking draw and gee hom aan." First guy picks it up and he starts passing this big draw and turn on. And when it came to the third guy, he started to puke, of course. And you got all the troops looking on and laughing. And so anyway, cut a long story short, that tent became known as the boomkakkers. Okay. And they got all the lousy tasks. They had to keep all the toilets clean and the ablution blocks and all that sort of stuff. And that person that cocked there or did his business there, he never owned up. If he ever owned up, he would be killed. But anyway, I just wanted to share that story with you because it was quite a funny incident, Chris. And so, yeah, getting back to basics. So I did my basics with the parabats, and I got a stomach hernia in my stomach. So obviously I couldn't carry on with the PD course, and first I had to go to a hospital and had that attended to. So in the meantime, I was RTU'd to Luwatla, Army Battle School. Now, Army Battle School was still in its infant stages, based in Luwatla, where they were going to make a conventional practice range and war, sort of like, I suppose one can call it battle school. So I arrived there, and then I had to go for the operation, which I did. No, I arrived there shortly after the operation. And whilst there, I volunteered to become a driver, and we transported vehicles between Pretoria and Luwatla for the vehicle park, etc. And whilst there were two guys that pitched up there in camouflage berets. Okay, this was now 1978, and nobody had ever seen camouflage berets like that before. So obviously, everybody was intrigued with this, and it was two guys that came there, and they were from 32 Battalion, and they mentioned to us all, that this unit was involved in cross-border activity, and they only fought in Angola. And the guys were in the bush most of the time. And the guys also, they caught the snake, and they killed this puff adder, obviously fried it, and showed us all how to fry a snake, etc. But be that as it may, so I thought, yes, like this sounds good to me, maybe I must put in a verklaring. And volunteered to go there. So for what it was worth, that's what I then did. I put in a verklaring to go there, and I think 3-2 were really short supply of people, and they wanted personnel. And I got a response quite quickly that I had to report there, and they called me in and flew me up to Rundu. So I arrived in Rundu course, and it's hot. And 3-2 Battalion at that stage, its unit was made out of IBR sheeting, you know, and that administration officers, they were officers, but they didn't have any ceilings. So you could hear everything that was going on in the offices. If you listen, you know, besides the ops room, the ops room was completely isolated, and not everybody had access to the ops room. And obviously they had maps, you know, from wall to floor type of thing. And in any event, on my arrival there, I was called and summoned to report to Major Eddie Forleun's office. So I was marched into Major Forleun's office by Sergeant Major Pep van Zyl, who everybody knows, and he was a legend in his day. And so you can imagine this 18-year-old troop that was shivering because, you know, just after basics, you only dealt with lieutenants and maybe a captain. You never went to a major or commandant, or that was sort of seen as senior rank, you know. So you didn't have, well, certainly not one-on-one with a major or anything either. Maybe a good morning to a captain or something was in the order of the day. So in any event, I get marched into the major's office with Sergeant Major Pitt, and obviously it's a leer, aandag, etc., and he tells me who I am, and so the major says to me, he says, waar het jy van 3-2 gehoor? So I said, Major, I nowhere in particular, just from the troops. So he says, gaan nie uit en gaan lees die credo. So the creed of the battalion, which is honesty, loyalty, and justice, is in the foyer there, and it was on a wooden stump, and it was written on there in white. So anyway, I came back with, now this is all in Afrikaans, you know, and my mother tongue is English, obviously. So I rehearsed this, and I go back to him, and I report, and I salute, aandag, everything, and I say, it's honesty, loyalty, and I couldn't remember regverdigheid. Okay, so he says, fok terug, gaan lees hom weer. So I do a about turn, salute, all the trip, and go back. Then I thought, yes, no, I better not mess this up again. So maybe I'll read it in English this time. So I report back, and I tell him in English on honesty, loyalty, and justice. He said, my fuck, ek praat Afrikaans, nie Engels. So anyway, he says to me, okay, where do you go from 3-2? About 3-2. I said, Major, nowhere in particular, just from the troops, and you know, because 3-2 at that point in time was fairly under the radar at that point in time. Nobody really knew about it, or what they were doing, or anything like that. So it was fairly secretive. So anyway, he sort of like accepts that, you know, it was nowhere in particular that I heard it from. And he says to me, he says, ek sien jy kom van een valskarm battalion. I said, ja, meneer. I said, well, ek het net 2 van julle ouens, jou boeties, weggejaar, want hulle is laar as slangkap. Hy sê, 'n mens kon pokkel met hulle. So I said, I just kept quiet, and so he says to me, he says, okay, wat wil jy hier kom doen? Hy sê, meneer, ek wil veg. Hy sê, jy wil wat doen? Ek sê, ek wil veg, meneer. Hy sê, well, hy sê, ek was nog nooit daai vraag gevra. So ek kan jou nou sê, ek kan jou nie 'n antwoord dadelik op dit nou gee nie. Maar ek sal dit moet met die OC praat. Opneem met die OC. And so he said to me, he will come back to me with regards to my request. So that was the end of the interview, and omkeer, salute, everything, and dismissed. And then, of course, I walked right in, smack bang into Pep van Zyl, Samuel Pep, and he's got 2 queer fuel Magirus trucks full of manure. They were full of manure for the HQ garden and for the PFs and the PFs trailer houses or whatever you want to call them. And there were 2 of us. He gave us 2 shovels and 1 psalm of each to offload this manure. Well, I can tell you, of course, there's a lot of cock on a queer fuel. It took us quite a few hours to offload this. But anyway, that's how I was introduced to 3T on my first day or whatever. And then a day or 2 later, I was summoned again to the Major's office. So obviously you reported the same way. And sitting in front of the Major, said to me, he says, he's discussed my request with the officer commanding, and he says that I may continue with my request, but however, there are certain conditions that will apply, and if I'm prepared to accept them, then I can carry on. So the Major says, that Bravo company is going into retraining. So what happens is every cycle, some companies go into the bush and do combat, and whilst the other guys are at home relaxing, and the other guys are doing retraining and getting prepared for their next bush undertaking. So anyway, I just says, look, Bravo is going into retraining now. He says, if you won't be afforded any privileges, you're going to be treated as any black troop is treated. You will eat with them, drink with them, whatever the case may be, train with them, but there will be no exceptions made because you're white. You will be treated 100% like a troop. And he says, if you are prepared to accept those conditions, then you can go into training with Bravo Company. So I said, Major, I'm prepared to accept this. So he says, okay. And he says to me, just please don't let me down. I said, no, sir, I promise you I won't let you down. So in any event, I was dismissed and put on a Queerful and landed up at Buffalo. So we arrived at Buffalo, of course, and now, there's that road between Rundu and Buffalo is one long white road. And, you're sitting on the back of the Queerful and the Samuel there, and your browns become white. You look like a ghost when you get off the vehicle on the other side. Even your eyebrows, everything is just full of this white dust, from the vehicles and that. Anyway, so I arrived there and I get dealt into Bravo crew, and my immediate lieutenant was Willem Mutlow. Of course, you probably know Willem Mutlow. And my sergeant was Sergeant Johnny Buerta. So anyway, I get dealt in with them, and the company lines, of course, in those days was consisted of rows of tents. I think they were Second World War tents. They were small tents. They weren't very high like the ones that we know that we're accustomed to, those big green things that you can fold the sides down or whatever. These are more like A-frame things like that fold up on the sides, but they were very low pitched. But anyway, there were no beds. We didn't have any beds. We had to make our own beds. So what we did, we took stumps of wood. So you get a fork of a tree, like a catty, and you cut this stump over here and there, and at the bottom you make like a foot, and you cut 4 of them. So that forms your base. So you dig this now into the ground and another to this side, and then you take a pole and you put the pole in between this fork now on either side. So that becomes now your base, and then you cut poles the width of the bed, and you put these poles, you stack them all along to the forks of the thing, and that is now your bed. And then you take grass or hay or whatever the case may be, and you try and cover these human poles that are all kronkel and all that sort of stuff. I was telling you, because you can't sleep on those things. Yeah, so you land up sleeping next to your bed. So I slept on the ground next to the bed, and most of the troops, of course, they all and go to the Kimbo and sleep there and then come back early before the guys will wake us up for PT and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, so that's how I lived with the guys. I ate with them, trained with them. I learned, well, obviously I knew nothing about Portuguese. I was thrown into the deep end. But you learn sort of like, you adapt quite quickly. And, when you've got nobody else to talk to, you sort of like, got to talk to somebody, and you talk to the troops and you start picking up Portuguese. So yes, I can speak a bit of Portuguese still. It's funny, the more beer I drink, the better it comes back to me nowadays. But anyway, so we get on with our training, and it's basically doing basics all over again, except more on a fighting sort of way, in terms of fire and movement and all that sort of stuff, and the bush warfare. That was where we concentrated on, and shooting and et cetera, et cetera. So basically, we did the whole basics over again, but as I say, with the black troops, and being treated with them, no exceptions, etc. So then after that, we did one operation with the companies. Now the companies operated obviously in a bigger force, so there were a lot of people. So they weren't as quiet as when the Recky sticks and that sort of stuff, where you're exceptionally quiet and that, and you can't afford to be compromised. Where it's a company, you don't mind, because you've got a lot of firepower and there's a lot of people around you. You're okay. But anyway, I remember the very first ops that I went on with them. Of course, we were going to settle down for the evening, and we came across this herd of goats. So the troops started herding these goats in front of us, and the goats, I think they're called kids. The small little goats. It's called a kid, but they're small and they're cute. They look like puppies, Now, obviously, these little goats couldn't keep up with the mothers and that while the troops are herding them. So the one guy, he picks up this goat by the back legs, the two back legs like this, and he hits the goat's head against the tree. And of course, the goat is now dead, lies there. He picks up another one and he does the same to this little goat, obviously. Yes, and that shocked me. I thought, yes, now where am I coming to? Because I'm a staunch animal lover. I love my animals. But anyway, I'll never forget that. So anyway, we did our first operation with the companies. I can't remember what the ops name was or anything like that at this point in time. And so once we returned from the bush, of course, there was a Recky selection, a second Recky selection. Now, Frans Marie was the first, he was involved with the first Recky selection and the Recky team, as you know, and as he mentioned. So they had to have some replies, new recruits as well. So they were doing another selection on the Recky, for the Recky stick. And obviously, that's where I thought, well, that's what I want to go to. So I volunteered for the Recky selection, and once again was also with all the black troops doing the selection. And obviously, it was Pep van Sale was our instructor, and Blue Kenny was our other guy, and Sergeant Ron Gregory. So the three of them were in control of our selection, which was a couple of days. I can't recall how many days it was, but I remember it was well, I say relatively tough. It was far tougher than Parabat PD course, in that, you know, it was continuous. You know, you walk through the whole night, and then the whole day you get messed around, and the whole night, and it carries on. So whereas the PT course, I found with the bats, you know, you could switch yourself off. You just knew. You just had to make each day between, you know, the morning and evening, and then you could just go and sleep, and you know. And that was it, but not with the selection, or the Recky selection, or our Recky selection. It wasn't even, I'm talking about, you know, 1RC or anything like that. But anyway, so, and then we also did a survival course, and there was also another incident with regards to that as well, in the selection, where we were now static and doing this survival, where, you know, you get trained how to, you know, set up snares and things like that, and how to catch animals. And so you live on partridges. It's tough as hell, but anyway, but we managed to catch a few partridges. But anyway, so what happened was we were all issued 5 rounds, just in case of emergencies, because obviously there's a lot of elephants, there's buffalo and lion and all that sort of stuff in the training area, and we were doing all this. So TTR Brew and Augusto, his team, they decided now they also had additional ammunition as well. But they decided they're going to sneak back to Pickapau. Now, Pickapau was the village where all the families used to stay. That must have been about, I would imagine, 10, 15 kilos away. And they would get their food from you know, family members there. So they sneaked off to go and try and get some food from them without anybody knowing. But on their way to the Kimba, they came across this herd of buffalo, and there was a wounded buffalo there that got hold of Agostino and tossed him in the air, and he got hurt, and Titi shot the buffalo. But then they had to carry him back to so he could get casevac. So they had to carry him back, and he was casevac out and back to wounded. But he survived, and he was, you know, just had a couple of scars, luckily, to show for it. And that was the end of that. So of course, yes, and then we finished the Recky selection, and then shortly after that, Blue Kelly left because of the Chaka incident, as Francis mentioned in his story. And then France took over initially, briefly, and then we got a guy by the name of Willem Ratta. Now, Willem, I must tell you, his first meeting, or the first meeting that I had with Willem Ratta, and also where I learned never to judge a book by its character, by its cover. Never judge a book by its cover. Anyway, Willem was introduced to us. I was still at Buffalo. And the other Recky group, they were still at Amoni. They still hadn't been introduced to you. But anyway, so Willem arrives there. But of course, he's got a set of brand new browns. I don't think they had even been washed yet. I think he must have put them on in the KM stores, you know. And he came in, he had his stripes on, but they were the new ones, you know, they were shiny. And he had his ball suit, you know, it was all floppy like this, but it was shining. It was brand new. He still had the folds of how this was folded up in the plastics and, you know. And he was introduced to us with this. And then he had glasses. Now he had these glasses, and in the middle of the bridge of his nose here, they were broken. So he'd taken elastoplast, you know, the elastic plast, that one that stretches like that. And he had just wound it around a couple of times. And that sufficed for his glasses. So anyway, so we get introduced to Philip, and this is our first meeting with Philip. But I must say, and I've done so many kilos and walked so many kilos with Willem in my life. And yes, that man, he can walk and he can carry a load on him, and he's not shy to carry a load. And that man's navigational skills are also quite remarkable in terms of you know, just knowing where you are, and especially in that terrain where you haven't got lots of features that you can identify yourselves with, like mountains and things like that. It's very flat, you know. So, you know, sometimes you also get dropped off in the wrong place where the SAP says you know, or you think you and you find out after walking 10, 20 kilos that you're in the wrong place, you know, and then you've got to walk that back or whatever the case may be. So that happened on a lot of occasions. But I must say, I loved working with Willem. We used to get cross and upset with him, but he was a proper professional soldier. And in any event, we carried on with training after the selection at Buffalo, and we did sort of like a DEMS course, but we didn't get things like one Recky guys did and all that sort of stuff. But ours was more basic DEMS course, and you know, obviously then it was all of minor tactics related training and firing movement and ambushes and laying of mines and etc. that we do in practice and all that sort of stuff. So once that training was over, we were transferred to Amoni, and Willem then officially took over the Recky wing at that point in time. So, and we operated out from Amoni. Now, Amoni was a small little base in the bush. It certainly wasn't like Buffalo. Buffalo had the beautiful river. And, you know, you could do lots of extramural activities when you had a bit of time off, in terms of, you know, going on booze cruises and fishing and whatever the case may be. But at Amoni, it was a small little place. There was only a couple of us in the camp, in the base. There was just a couple of medics and the armorer, a doctor, and then our Recky wing, and obviously the chef and that type of thing. But that was all. So it was very tiny, and it was cozy, if one can call it that. We had a nice pub, which was originally the swimming pool that we converted and put a roof over it, and it became our pub. Yes, and it became a beautiful little camp. I thought I was really going to miss Buffalo, but I didn't miss Buffalo at all once I was at Amoni. And we had a sort of little tea room there that we used to gather around and drink tea and get our briefings from there and take it from there. Also, another incident that took place there as well. You know, after going to the pub, you sort of like get hungry, and we would go into the kitchen and see what we could find there. You know, and this particular night was myself and the late Gavin Feenstra, and we were looking through. We found a nice big box of steaks. Yes, you know, those nice steaks that we used to get. So we were looking for oil or butter to fry this, the steaks were now, because we had the stove going and everything, and we were going to fry the steaks on there now. And I opened this deep freeze, and I was looking for the butter, and there were a couple of the tubs of butter. And I grabbed the butter and I opened it, and inside this butter was frozen prawns. So we thought, yay. So we put the steaks back, and we took the prawns there. I think there were 2 punnets of these butter tubs full of frozen prawns. So out came oil, and we fried ourselves some prawns. And we left it there. I think it was 2 or 3 days later. Old Daisy, one of our other colleagues, he was very upset because he couldn't find his prawns. His prawns were gone. So nevertheless, we didn't know enough. We just kept quiet. Gavin, I knew where they went. So, yeah. And so, of course, yeah, we operated from Amoni. From there, we used to get bussed out to wherever we were going to, do the operation or whatever the case may be. And when we weren't doing operations, we would get back to camp. And yes, I'll tell you, you get into the shower, and you were scarcely out of the shower, and Willem would say, "We'll see you on the shooting range." Yes, but the guys used to get a bit pissed off about this. I mean, we just come out of the bush. Now you want to relax a bit, No, yeah, we got to go. So yeah, we go. We go and we do a bit of shooting and that. And Willem kept us busy all the time, He never let us, balbak, as we call it, all the time. There was nothing like that. It was practice and practice and practice. So when we weren't in the bush, we'll come out, a bit of, cleaning around, play a bit of volleyball, and a bit of that, maybe a bit of cricket we could. And then it was shooting range, or going to practice a landmine, laying of landmines, and getting it perfected, not mixing the sand and all that, keeping them separated, you know what I mean? So the disguising and etc. So also obviously laying of ambushes and firing movement. So it was practice all the time, even when we were out of the bush. So anyway, of course, Sarti comes up, and we know this is going to be a big operation because of the manpower that starts arriving at Amoni. So, but anyway, to cut a long story short, of course, we get loaded up onto all the buffels and sawmills and etc., and we get taken up from Amoni towards Sarti, going across the border and that in the vehicles, and where we met up with the military intelligence guys. There was a guy by the name of Senor Lob that was going to take us in and to this base that we were going to tackle. And obviously, once we were tackled, we were supposedly going to be UNITA, and we was going to take over the base and hand it over to UNITA, and UNITA would claim the victory of this base. So anyway, be that as it may, we met up with the Senor Lob, and he was going to take Willem in, because Willem, well, he initially took Willem in, because Willem, I think it was Willem at Piknokia and Opis, and I think 2 other troops did the Recky of Sarti. So initially they were taken in by the Senor Lobs, and they were also dropped off at the wrong place. Okay, so it took them, I think they walked the whole afternoon in the wrong direction, and then they had to walk all the way back again to where they were, and then plus still further to get to their RV. So what happened was they lost a lot of time, but in any event, they got into the base, and in fact, one of the troops, whilst they were doing the Recky, at night, that stumbled into some guys coming back from a Devon and in fact chatted to the guys. But and that's when Willem also realized that there are far more people in this base than military intelligence told us. But what happened was that Willem's radio had got water damage as well, so he couldn't communicate to us or to HQ and say, listen, I think we've bitten off more than we can chew here, or call the ops off, or whatever the case may be. But so Willem just had to let it go as is. And of course, we were at that stage. We had already because of the time factor and our planned attack, there was just no timing for Willem to get hold of us and to stop this attack. So in the meantime, we were all walking into towards the army base, their base. So what was going to happen was, and we were carrying heavy. Of course, we had a lot. We were carrying heavy, and we walked the whole night. I remember we walked right through the night. Plus, we had to carry. Each of us were issued 88 mortars to carry as well, the 80 mils. So we were carrying these 80 mils, and then at least we dropped them off at the dispersal point, where we all sort of like fanned out and went to our different RVs. Now, we had the furthest to walk because we had to walk right around the base towards the north. There was a road going up from Sarti to the north, and we had to be stopper groups, and we were split. The road split this between the river on the right hand side and the road, and there were 10 sticks. There were three men guys in each stick. So we had a machine gunner, and we had two guys either with Snortniers or AKs or whatever the case might be, or two PKMs, and we were in 3-man teams. We were stretched out across this. So we had to walk, as I said, right around the base, and we only got there. It was still light. I mean, and initially the attack was supposedly going to take place at first light, and we were just, none of us were in position at that point in time. So the attack only started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we were based right on, as I said now, right in the north. So initially nothing happened with us. Everything was quiet until the first mortar bomb started going off, and then all hell broke loose. Then it was just a hail of small arms fire, and 14 fires, and you name it. It was just a big. But we just, at that point in time, we just stayed in our positions, and we could just listen to what was going on, because we were still further a bit north in this. But then what happened was, obviously now with the attack and the advancing of the companies, the guys started retreating, and that was, retreating. They scattered all over the place. They, some guys went towards the river, some guys came up north towards our enemy line, or our Recky line there, our stopper groups. And what happened was, we had Major Viljoen at that point in time was in Telstar, which was a plane that was up there. And we weren't allowed any air support or choppers, etc. The only time we were allowed for chopper was for Casevacs, and that was it. But we weren't allowed any fire support or chopper support, and that, because obviously we were supposed to be UNITA, and UNITA didn't have that type of equipment. So they wanted to limit the use of the choppers. So, but in any event, so when these guys sort of like started running towards us, of course, everything just went crazy. We were fighting, we were shooting, and Fritz and I were right next to the river. The river was flowing on the left, now on this side where we were, and we had so it was Fritz and myself, and we had our machine gunner. We had a PKM as well, and initially he was shot. in the initial stages of the contacts that we had. So we had very limited firepower other than just Francie and myself, and because now we had no machine gun. So we didn't have any, it was just the 2 AKs and our Snortniers going. And I'm telling you, because the leaves and bark and sticks and everything were flying, were covering us. Luckily they were just shooting high because it was because we were, otherwise we were dead. But anyway, so now I got into the radio and I called for the chopper support because of our machine gunner being shot. So anyway, Fritzy, he went to also try and get assistance for us as well, because now this fight was, we were getting overrun here any minute now. So, and the other sticks came around from right on top where there was a bit of less action, and came and did a side attack here from us, and we retrieved our machine gunner. We put a drip into him, and that was at that stage. It was shortly after we put a drip into him. And while we were putting the drip in, we also realized that it's probably a pointless exercise because we could see the blood, and it didn't look good. But we had to help the guy, and unfortunately passed on. But just about then, we heard the choppers, and I had to cancel and say, listen, no. But at that stage, at the same time, the choppers also were drawing on, well, not the chopper, it was one chopper. And the pilot was Johan Metz. I think he also got a medal for his efforts in Sarti. And he was telling me recently at the get-together as well that luckily, they've got armor-plated seats in the chopper. And where the one came right through and hit into the back of his armor plating chair. So otherwise, he said he was also history as well. But be that as may, so yeah, whilst Bihan was there, at the same time, he spotted that the guys had now made a getaway, and they were going up this road towards us. So everybody got scrambled into buffles and chased them. And of course, obviously, we shot a whole lot of people there. And anyway, once that was done, it was pretty much over, other than the mopping up operations that sort of taking place. But now another incident was there as well, was whilst this was all taking place and our firefighting was carrying on, Fritzy had dumped his mochila, his backpack and everything. And he was looking for this. We couldn't find it anywhere, And eventually we saw, yes, but there's a little thing. It was like a sleeping bag, but just in tatters on a tree, And we looked around and we saw a little piece of a radio and all that sort of stuff. But what happened was the felt caught alight, and there were grenades in there were deaths in there was ammo and everything, and this thing was just blown away. So Fitz had nothing to sleep on. He had no sleeping bag or anything. He had a long night ahead of him. So anyway, so we started with mopping up operations quest, and we shot a whole lot of vehicles out, vehicles that we couldn't take back with us. We put rocket launchers through the radiators and, right into the engine blocks and that sort of stuff. So we destroyed quite I don't know, it must have been at least 50 vehicles there that we destroyed and just left in the veld there. But we did bring quite a couple of vehicles back as well with us. And so whilst we were doing all this operations and shooting all this and forming up and getting everything into the center, because it's the whole base is a big base, Chris. It's not a small base, It's spread over quite some distance, So we were bringing everything together. Now we're sort of like trying to, well, we're still not 100%, we're still jittery, from all these big bangs and everything and that. And I remember standing there and we were chatting, and all of a sudden, yes, we just hear this whizzing sounds and bangs and you name it. But it was all over. It was just coming from everywhere. It was like whistling over our heads. We couldn't identify where are they taking us from or anything like it. And everybody just dispersed. Everybody just scattered and just died for cover, because we couldn't figure out what the hell's going on here now. But anyway, we found out later that Willem found a whole cache of ammo, which he decided now he's going to make a fire on and let this stuff, get rid of it. So that's what he did. And there were rocket launchers, there was everything in there. And of course, this thing just exploded and went AWOL. And Willem said afterwards, it wasn't a very good idea, but at the time it was. But anyway, so then the thing was, so we had some vehicles and that we loaded up all equipment, 14 5s that we recovered, and a lot of small arms, etc. And all the stuff and equipment was loaded onto vehicles, and then we were going to take it that we took back to South Africa with us. So there were two incidents on the way back, that I'd like to tell you about. Was that there was one vehicle that was also the late Gavin Fienstra and Kevin Fitzgerald. They were in this one troop carrier, and Kevin and they were in them, and myself and Gavin Mon, and we had a white medic that was with us, and he was in the back of our vehicle. Now, I had a diesel tanker. It was a big 6-wheel job, but those big Russian 6-wheel tankers, diesel tankers. So we were following behind them now. And there was a 90-degree turn, in the road. And Fritzy was leaning against the door, but, sideways like this, with your back against the door. Yes, and as this vehicle turns, we just see a big stop hole here in the thing there. And anyway, when this thing stops rolling, here's Fritzy, and he's dusting himself off. Luckily, it was soft sand and everything like that, so he didn't get hurt or anything. But then it was funny, because he just came out there like a missile when this door just opened. And so anyway, now we're on our way backwards, and now it's late at night. Now this is the following day. It's the day after the attack, and now we're driving back now with all the equipment and everything, and we're going back to Amoni. So it's a 2-spoor pikey that we follow, and we haven't got lights. We just got to rely on the moonlight and that. So we just go, and so we were doing quite a speed. I reckon we were doing about maybe 50 kilometers now, 50, 60 along this 2-spoor pipe. And, there was also a 90-degree turn. And the reason for the 90-degree turn was there was a cattle trough there, an old concrete cattle trough that was disused or whatever the case might be. But now I was going, and by the time I saw this in the moonlight, it was too late. There was no chance for brakes or anything like that, And we hit this cattle trough, and of course the Bowser that just ramped over this concrete block or whatever and took it out. But we ramped it and landed there and came to a stop. And being a petrol Bowser, the exhaust pipe is in the front of the cab. That's right almost by the front bumper. And sparks were coming out of this bumper. Yes, and the medic, the white medic, he bailed out of that cab of ours when he saw these sparks, because he thought, no, this tanker is now going to catch on. He didn't want to be inside this thing. So he bailed out and he ran into the bushes. So anyway, eventually it stopped sparking. So we said, no, medic, it's okay. It's okay, you can come back now. So anyway, medic gets back into the vehicle, and off we go back to Amoni. And so we got back to Amoni. It was quite late and everything. And all the stuff was just put out on the airstrip there, and we had a lot of equipment that was brought back. Some of one of the companies had to go back because there were some of our bodies unaccounted for, and we couldn't leave our colleagues or comrades or whatever you want to call them behind, and obviously we had to go and retrieve them, which we did. So that was basically the end of Sarti course, and after Sarti, what happened was we had to go and do our parish course. So we all were flown down to Lipman for the PD course, and obviously the hangar course, which we did. And I must say that we did the PD course, which was obviously 2 weeks of that. We had a couple of guys with us that did the entire PD course, only to fail on the last day when you've got to do those 5 exams or whatever the case, climbing the wall and the 2,4 and the scarf draw and all that. And unfortunately, because you can't get over the wall, you can't make it and go on to the next phase. But you did the whole blooming PD course, But anyway, be that as it may. So there were 1 or 2 guys in the Recky wing which didn't qualify, to go on to the hangar course. So we completed the hangar course, and then we went back to Rundu. Now at this point in time, I should have already clawed out, because I was still a national serviceman. So anyway, and Willem and the major then wanted me to go to Oudtshoorn. They wanted me to join extra year or PF, and they wanted to send me to Oudtshoorn, which I wasn't really keen for, because I must be honest, I had done basics twice, I'd done selection, and I didn't want to go get messed around for another year as well, you know what I mean? But anyway, it was, in the back of my mind, yes, I was going to do it, So anyway, I clawed out at Amoni, and then I had to go to Rundu and claw out at HQ there, and then I was flown back again. And when I got back to Civvy Street, it was my 21st birthday. So I had my 21st, and then there was an advert in the newspaper for a sales rep or a merchandiser at that point in time. And I applied for this, and within a week, I'd already got a job. And so that was the end of me joining PF, because that's initially what I came down for. Willem had given me motivational papers that get signed and all that sort of stuff for me to join PF. I just had to take them to HQ and fill in the forms and go ahead. But anyway, so in Civvy Street, and there's women and all that sort of stuff, and it's not the bush anymore. So initially it was just a wine, woman, and song and dance and everything. So I didn't land up joining PF or short term. And the next time I saw Willem was when he was in hospital after being shot up by the SAF, if I can call it that, accidentally. So, and Willem said to me, he said, I thought you're coming back. I said, yeah, Willem. I said, seriously, he's much better. So, yeah, so that was my national service career. And I must tell you, Willem, I haven't regretted it one bit. I've seen things that most people haven't seen in their lives before. Young people. And I felt, when I did my national service, I didn't want to go and just sit in Balbach. Like everybody says, rugby, army was a waste of time. All you do is bugger all. You sit around and do nothing. But I think that also is because, that is up to each individual. And I decided, look, I want to make the most of it while I was there, which I did. And I think, and I had the opportunity, and I must thank Major Fillion sincerely for giving me the opportunity, and the late General Ferreira for giving me the opportunity. In fact, I've written a letter of thanks to the Major, but I just haven't sent it yet. But it's on my computer, and I need to send it to the Major. So that's in essence my national service career, if you want to call it, you can't call it career, but 2 years of national service that I had in the army, and I enjoyed it. I made friends, lifelong friends, that I still see often today, as well as the chopper pilots who we used to work with, the camaraderie that still is there, and it's just so nice getting together with the guys and chatting about the old times, the way they see the operation from the air, that type of thing, and obviously us being on the ground, it's two different viewpoints, and so it was great. The other thing that I also learned as well, and still affects me today, is probably water. Is I hate to waste water, because I know how precious water was to us. Yes, I mean, I don't know how many times that we had water that, there were dead animals in, but you had to skip it, and you might drink it, until you get a resub or something like that. But then you realize that without water, there's no life, and even today, I hate seeing water. I go to gym, although it doesn't look like it, but anyway, I go to gym and I see the guys there. They turn the tap on and they brush their teeth, and the water's just going, it's just flowing. And I'm just thinking to myself, yes, what we would have done for that water in the bush, But anyway, so yeah, those are life things that I still, and I think even today, I don't drink enough water, because I used to conserve my water. I used to take a little stone and put it in my mouth and walk with this, and we didn't have chewing gum or anything like that, but just swallow it around in my thing, so that you keep your mouth moist and you don't use water all the time. So even today now, where I should be drinking a lot of water, I still don't do it, because I don't know why, because maybe it's psychologically in me not to waste water. But that's it. So yeah, Chris, that's come to the end of my little episode, and my little story on the national service and the SADF. And must just tell you that I'm very proud, immensely proud, to have served in 3-2 Battalion, and with the guys that are still my best friends today.
I must thank you, Peter. I sat here quietly and I made a few notes, and I was giggling in the background. I mean, this is just like you said, you did the best over 2 years. You just grabbed it, an opportunity, and I'm sure there are people here, the loafers, who might now look at it and think, well, perhaps I should have volunteered somewhere, but you know how it is in those days. Just want to say to the folks here who possibly don't know, Zanin is a very beautiful place. I myself was in Giani, which isn't far away. That's why actually when I started school, I think my father was the magistrate there. But now I'm back to that troll, that dirt, which was found by Saki Mare. Now Saki Mare was, of course, on this program. Wonderful man, later became a RSM.
Correct.
Then became an officer commanding actually of the paratroopers. He is a paratrooper. And then that's all you can say about Saki Mare. He's just a fantastic fellow. Well, I wonder now, you people always had this running battle with the armor guys next door. And once I said to me, they won all the fights. I don't know. I'm quite sure that the paratroopers will say something else in return. But
exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. But now I have to ask you, what were the chances that one of them planted this evidence there, next to the tent, just to get you people into trouble? Do you think that could have happened?
No, I don't think it was. Definitely not. because not the size with that roll. I don't know where they would have found something like that, Chris.
No, you say it was impressive. I
It was
recall.
impressive. It would have made your eyes water. I think.
Yeah, and these things are impressive, but yeah, let's not get to the gross side of things, but the impressive one is impressive to look at. Shows a good diet anyway. So now I recall something in the police, in the flying squad, we were right across with the simple 60 or something we called them, the riot unit. There were a lot of it, probably 1,000 of them. And we, in the flying squad, thought of ourselves better than the rest anyway, for reason. But we could switch our radio frequency in our vehicles because we had to talk to the air wing, we had to talk to sometimes the task force people, whoever.
Yes.
And so one day, somebody, it wasn't me, I just want to be sure about this, it was not me. But somebody started playing with fool on the riot units, radio frequencies. Now, these people are like the military, they're not like the police at all. I mean, they have platoons, they have sections, they have their Caspers, they have their land cruisers, they are really not like a normal hobby down the, walking down the street. And they did excellent work. But then, sadly, the commanding officer was listening to this chirping over radio, which was highly unusual. And so he asked, who's doing this? And of course, the answer came back, so jy will fucking weet nie, all this type of thing. And the end result of all of this is that the entire unit got paraded on, and they had to do PT and run around there for hours. And we were sitting on the other side, having a nice cold Coke and just laughing, because we knew what happened. I'm not, that was in Pretoria, I think in 88 or 89. They still have not forgiven us. Yeah, I just want to say also to the viewers that Loatla Battle School is one of the biggest in the world. It's a massively big place. I believe you can hold exercises there up to divisional level. And today you find a lot of overseas armies there doing the exercises, places being rented out, as far as I know. We are trying to make an episode of Echo Victor as well. The man was an absolute legend. Perhaps you can tell the people who exactly is Eddie Viljoen. Because every single person I speak to in 3-2 Battalion has such a love for that man. That is just amazing.
Yeah, well, Major Viljoen I've got the most respect for, and obviously I owe him a lot in terms of the opportunity that he gave me as a troop, a 19-year-old troop, shivering in front of him. But we try to avoid him as much as possible, because because Echo Victor could get the mood in as well, and he wasn't scared of dishing out a couple of clubs and things like that, So, but being in the Recky wing, we didn't see much of Echo Victor. He was more in the HQ and the company lines and that sort of stuff, and more dealings with the companies. Obviously they used to come and visit the Boney, but it was on the odd occasion and that sort of stuff. So yeah, but we try to avoid him as much as possible.
I think it was Frans Fourie in one of his episodes, probably episode 2, who described that incident with Blue Kelly and I can't remember the other guy's name.
And Chaka, yeah.
Chaka, that's right. I almost said King because I was thinking of King. Of Chaka, yes. It's very unfortunate, I have to say. Blue Kelly, what exactly happened to him, and how do you know how he got into a unit? Because he was Australian as far as I know. He
was Australian, and then I think he came in via Rhodesia. I think we got a whole lot of Rhodesian people that joined Special Forces and 3-2. They came across, and I think Blue was one of them initially. Coming from Rhodesia. Of course, I'm not quite sure. I stand to be corrected there, but I certainly think that he was an extradition. Like I think Mike Rogers. I think Mike Rogers was also an Australian, and I think he was also in Rhodesia, and then came across to South Africa.
Yeah, I sometimes get the idea that 32 Battalion was like a foreign legion. Right in the beginning anyway, there used to be a lot of foreign nationalities. They were professional soldiers. Not saying anything bad about them. They were good people.
Yes.
More than in any other unit.
Yeah, yes, definitely. There were a lot. Well, when I say a lot, there was, I know of, there was, Mike Rogers and Luke Kelly, definitely, that I can recall. And then, of course, we had the German guy that came in there that also painted our name badly in the media and all that sort of stuff. And, told everybody all the atrocities that we were committing in Angola, etc., etc. Trevor Edwards was his name. Yeah, and then I think they clamped down quite a bit, shortly after that security leak or breach, should I call it.
Well, Willem Prato, of course, will also come to the show at some stage. He's just busy at the moment. Ironically, he's not far from me. He's in a country next to where I am.
Yes.
He would be wonderful. He would be wonderful to talk to. But we'll get to him as well. Everybody knows him. But now that you mention atrocities, there's probably not a unit in South Africa, in the army, more efficient in killing the enemy than 32 Battalion. And it's probably the most elite unit they have as well. And I'm now excluding special forces because they're something else. But let's call it a line regiment. Probably the most elite there was, even above the paratroopers, although they will, I'm quite sure, will have something to say about that. But this is a unit which worked behind enemy lines at company level, and sometimes with a lot of companies together. And they look different, and they completely work different, and they were always at the front. They were always leading the way. Funny enough, as they're leading the way here on Legacy as well. It just seems to me it's a certain type of person which they wanted. So when you arrived there, did you feel you were part of something special, or did it take a little bit to sink in?
No, of course, definitely. There was just a different vibe, It wasn't like a side unit in terms of, like parabats, you got a strack and, all this sort of stuff. And it's very, very much, I would imagine, like Special Forces was as well, in that you still had the discipline, but it wasn't so rigid, if I can call it that, as the SI units, you know what I mean? It was just more relaxed, but you still had the respect, and the honor. It was always there, but you would mix with each other. We had one bar. It was officers and NCOs, and at that stage I was a troop. But I was a white troop, but I was allowed to go in and drink with the guys. So, but that was only given to me after I'd done all my training and selection with them. Was I only allowed to go and have a couple of beers with them? So, but it was just one pub that we had, and we respected the lieutenants and the senior ranks, or the higher ranks, or whatever the case may be. There's none toward. So yes, there was just different. There's a camaraderie there that you cannot take away. Even my current girlfriend or whatever, she says, how can you go back 40 years ago and still meet and talk the same old crap with all your mates? I said, listen, you don't understand. You haven't been there. You haven't been there when the ship's flying around and being together and standing with the guys here and usually watching your back and you watching this. It's just different. It's not like a friend that you've got in Civvy Street and he's been your lifelong friend. And I don't know, it's just, I don't know the correct word or word that one can use. You know what I mean? To say, you know what I mean? It's the same, but it's not the same.
Yes.
you know.
Yes, I would call it a brotherhood because there certainly is such a thing with you people. The more I work with you on the show, the more I realize it's a bond which cannot be broken. If your girlfriend is smart, she will just let it go. Peter, can I ask you what happened after 3-2 Battalion? I suppose you had to join some kind of a citizen force unit. And you
I did. I did, Chris. You know, they asked me when I left, I said, listen, where do you want to go? I said, look, Irene Commandos, because when I was on leave and I went past Irene Commandos, nothing was going on there, nothing. So anyway, I was down there and they gave me Irene Commandos. I was down here a month after just clearing out there when I was called up for a 3-month camp. And obviously, I got deferred because I said, listen, you know, I've just come back here now. Now you're calling me up for a 3-month camp. So I was exonerated. But in any event, so what happened was from there, Chris, I was with Irene Commandos, and then a year later, I got called up and we did a 3-month army camp up at Ondangwa. So now we're at Ondangwa, and we've got old mana now, you know, and you do all the menial tasks, you know what I mean, like, you know, access control and all that. So I'm standing there doing access control at the main gate of Ondangwa Army Base there. And here comes this private Land Rover. When I say private Land Rover, yeah, it's a private Land Rover. And it's got Justin Taylor inside this Land Rover. Now, Justin, he was our signals lieutenant at 3-2 Battalion. Okay. And he says, my fuck, Peter, what are you doing here? I said, I'm not working. I'm doing the gate here. He says, geez, like you can't be doing this here. I said, yeah, I am. So anyway, he says to me, listen, I'll come and fetch you here, and you come for a braai at the fort, because you know he was at Recky and he was doing a camp, and they were at the fort. So anyway, I go off, and he comes and fetches me in the Land Rover, and we go and we have a lekker braai there at the Reckies. So we end up having a lot of beer and everything, and he comes and I've got to stand guard duty now between 2 and 4 in the morning. So he comes back and he drops me off just before my guard duty. I think it was around about 1 o'clock. So I thought I'll just catch up on a bit of sleep before I go guard duty. So anyway, I lie down on my bed and I fall asleep. Yes, yeah, I wake up and this guy's shining a torch in my eyes. He's telling me I must go and stand guard duty. And I said, man, fuck off. There's no ways I'm going to stand guard. So anyway, as it may be, I just carried on sleeping. Well, I tell you, the next morning, I was held up, called in front of the OC, and I did PT, straf PT, for the whole morning, from morning until lunchtime. I was flipping Bedford tires and sun sucker and everything. But anyway, so that happened, and in my discussion with Justin, he said, listen, why don't you put in a verklaring and come to Recky? So, which I then did. And I put in a verklaring, and I was transferred to Recky. So then I went to Recky, and Major van der Spy was, Sabie van der Spy was our OC. And I did 1 or 2 ops with them. And then it was disbanded and closed, or whatever the case may be. And so that was the end of my camps and call-ups and all that sort of stuff. And then I went into sales and marketing after the army, and subsequently went into marketing and landed up marketing a security company for my cousin. And then I had the opportunity of going on my own, and I've also opened up a security company, which has been going now for 20 years. But we have developed a lock for one of the major retail chains in the country, or let's say the leading retail chain store. Initially, they had a lot of theft with regards to their product with deliveries, and we developed a ROC that we control and operate from our control room. So nothing can be stolen en route. It's all monitored. It's working on GPS coordinates, so they cannot stop along the side of the road and offload. It all goes through our control room. So the guy gets to his distribution point and he pushes the button. It requests our office or our control room to open. We confirm that it's where it's supposed to be, and then we monitor the offloading process. And we open the lock and it releases a lock. Subsequent to that, we've also now added a camera system onto that, and we can monitor the load bay and the sides of the trailer and directly above with it. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately for us, we didn't realize just what the takeoff would be on this, and because it has saved the company on insurance claims. It's their losses in terms of damages, because they transport a lot of liquor, high-end product, like Johnny Walker Blue and Blacks, etc. And they use these trolleys that they push into the vehicles. And if that's not strapped down securely, as the truck pulls away or breaks, you get a lot of damages. So we're cutting down on their damages, their insurance claims, proof of deliveries, because you might get a request from the store saying that the big guys maintain they didn't get a pallet of sugar. We go back on the cameras and say, but here's the picture, here's your pallet of sugar. So it's just from their point of view, it's just been a no-brainer, and they have now decided to put it in all their entire fleet of vehicles, which we are presently doing at this point in time. So yeah, Chris, things are going good on that side of things, and I think there's a lot more scope, for our product elsewhere.
Yeah, I must say I like to hear success stories. That's great to me, and I've been involved in security in Nigeria for a few years with G4S, and what you guys are now saying will work right through Africa. It will work actually anywhere in the world.
Exactly.
It's fantastic. I hope you hold a patent on that.
Well, as much as you can, but with all this electronic sort of stuff, and I don't know whether it's one worth it, but it doesn't take long for people to figure out things. So you just try and stay ahead just a little bit in front of everybody else,
Yeah, exactly. And of course, once you have a reputation, so I'm really glad to hear that. I tell you what, we will put the links in of your company here below, and if somebody wants to do business with you, well, you're welcome.
All right, thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate it, man.